The campus cafeteria buzzed with its usual lunchtime chaos, but I'd managed to snag my favorite corner table by the window. As a graduate student drowning in research papers, these quiet moments with my homemade bento box were sacred. I just picked up my chopsticks when I felt it, that prickling sensation of being watched. My eyes darted up, scanning the crowd, then dropped lower. There, crouched beside the table leg, was the most unusual girl I'd ever seen. Russet fox ears poked through silky auburn hair, twitching with each sound. A luxurious tail, banded with cream and copper, swished nervously behind her. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She didn't answer, but her emerald eyes locked onto my lunch with an intensity that made me self-conscious. Her nose twitched, clearly catching the scent of teriyaki chicken and rice. She leaned forward slightly, ears flattening against her head in what I could only describe as a hunting crouch. "Seriously?" I laughed to spite myself. "You're actually trying to steal my food?" At the sound of my voice, she froze completely, caught red-handed, or would have been if she'd actually touched anything yet. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then she deployed her secret weapon, the most devastating puppy-dog eyes I'd ever witnessed, made somehow more potent by the fox ears drooping sadly atop her head. "Oh, come on!" I protested weakly. "That's not fair." She tilted her head, a small, hopeful sound escaping her throat, something between a whimper and a chirp that no human could have made. Her tail stopped swishing and curled around her legs protectively. I sighed in defeat, sliding my plate slightly toward her. "Fine. One piece. But you're sitting in an actual chair like a civilized person, not crouching there like you're about to pounce." Her entire demeanor transformed. The ears shot upright. The tail began wagging so vigorously I worried she might knock something over, and she practically bounced into the chair across from me. With surprising delicacy, she picked up a piece of chicken with her fingers. Her nails, I noticed, were slightly pointed, and took a small, careful bite. The expression on her face was pure bliss. Her eyes closed, ears twitching happily, and she made a satisfied humming sound that drew a few curious glances from nearby tables. She savored that single piece like it was the finest delicacy, taking tiny bites and chewing slowly. "Good?" I asked, amused. She nodded enthusiastically, then seemed to remember something. "Yuki," she said softly, her voice melodic with a slight lilt. "My name is Yuki." "I'm Ethan," I replied, pushing the plate more toward the center. "And you know what? You look like you need this more than I do. Go ahead." The gratitude in her eyes made something warm bloom in my chest, though I didn't yet understand why. I didn't expect to see Yuki again. The campus was huge, and fox people, while not unheard of in our integrated society, weren't exactly common. Yet the next day, when I sat down with my lunch, I heard a familiar soft chirp and looked up to find those emerald eyes peering at me from behind a nearby pillar. "You can just come sit down, you know," I called out, trying not to smile too widely. She emerged cautiously, tail low, as if uncertain of her welcome. But when I gestured to the chair across from me, her whole face lit up. This time, I'd brought extra, some onigiri and fruit in addition to my main lunch. Her eyes widened when I pushed half of it toward her. "You brought this for me?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Well, I figured if you were going to become my lunch partner, we should make it official." That was 3 weeks ago. Now, I couldn't imagine eating without her. Yuki appeared every day, increasingly punctual, increasingly comfortable. She'd stopped asking permission and simply began arriving early, sometimes before me, claiming our table with a possessive curl of her tail around the chair legs. Our routine evolved naturally. She'd tell me about her morning classes. She was studying veterinary medicine, specializing in cross-species care, while I'd vent about my thesis advisor. Her ears became a mood indicator I learned to read. Perked forward meant interested. Flat meant annoyed, usually at whatever bureaucratic nonsense I was complaining about, and twitching meant she was trying not to laugh at my terrible jokes. But it was the little things that got me. The way she'd always save the best piece of whatever I brought for last, eating it with reverent slowness. How she'd lean across the table when engrossed in a story, close enough that I could see the golden flecks in her green eyes. The unconscious way her tail would brush against my leg under the table when she was happy. One rainy Thursday, I arrived to find her already at our table, but something was wrong. Her ears were flattened, her tail wrapped tightly around herself, and she was staring at nothing in particular. "Yuki?" I sat down quickly. "What's wrong?" "It's stupid," she mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "Try me." She was silent for a long moment before speaking. "Today's my birthday. 24. And I'm spending it alone because my family is 3 states away, and my roommate forgot, and I just..." She trailed off, a slight shimmer in her eyes. Without thinking, I reached across the table and took her hand. She startled slightly, ears perking up in surprise. "You're not alone," I said firmly. "You're spending it with me. And after classes, we're going to my place. I'm cooking you a real birthday dinner. Ethan, you don't have to. I want to." Her fingers curled around mine, and her tail began to wag slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "I'd like that." That evening, as I cooked in my small apartment kitchen, Yuki curled up on my couch with her tail wrapped around herself like a blanket, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite name. When I brought out the strawberry shortcake I'd secretly bought during my afternoon break, she actually teared up. "Make a wish," I said, lighting the single candle. She closed her eyes, ears tilting back slightly in concentration, then opened them and blew. But she didn't stop looking at me, and something in that gaze made my heart race. After that birthday dinner, something shifted between us. The casual touches became more frequent. Her tail brushing against me wasn't just occasional anymore, but nearly constant. She'd lean into my space when we talked, close enough that I could catch her scent, something wild and sweet, like honey and autumn leaves. I started finding excuses to see her outside of lunch. Study sessions in the library where we'd share earbuds, her head resting on my shoulder. Late-night coffee runs when we were both drowning in assignments, her hand finding mine as we walked. Weekend grocery shopping together, playfully arguing over which snacks to buy, her adding things to my cart with increasing boldness. "You know," my roommate Jake commented one evening, watching Yuki curl up beside me on the couch as we queued up a movie, "you two act more like a couple than my girlfriend and I do." Yuki's ears twitched, but she didn't move away. Neither did I. "We're just friends," I said, the words feeling hollow even as I spoke them. "Right," Jake said with a knowing smirk. "Friends who are basically attached at the hip. Friends who stare at each other like that." After he left, Yuki shifted slightly, her green eyes finding mine in the dim light of the TV. "Do you stare at me?" My throat went dry. "Maybe. Do you stare at me?" "Always," she admitted softly, and the honesty in her voice made my breath catch. The movie played on, neither of us really watching anymore. Her tail had somehow wound around my wrist, the soft fur tickling my skin. Every point where our bodies touched felt electric. When she shivered slightly, I grabbed the throw blanket and draped it over us both. "Ethan?" Her voice was barely audible. "Yeah. What are we doing?" It was the question we'd both been avoiding for weeks. I could feel her heart racing, or maybe that was mine. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But I know I don't want it to stop." She turned to face me fully, pulling her legs up onto the couch. In the flickering light from the TV, she looked ethereal, almost fae-like with her fox features and wild hair. I've never felt this way about anyone before, she confessed. You know how fox people are about pack and family bonds? This feels like that, but different. Stronger. Yuki, let me finish, she interrupted gently, one hand coming up to rest on my chest. I know human-fox relationships are complicated. I know people stare sometimes when we're together. I know your family might not understand. But Ethan, when I'm with you, I feel like I'm home. Like I've been wandering forever and finally found where I belong. The vulnerability in her eyes undid me. I cupped her face in my hands, thumbs brushing along her jaw. I'm terrified, I admitted, because I think I'm falling in love with you, and that feels too big and too fast and too perfect to be real. It's real, she breathed, leaning into my touch. I promise it's real. When I kissed her, it felt like everything clicked into place. Her lips were soft, moving against mine with a tentative sweetness that made my chest ache. Her hands clutched my shirt, pulling me closer, and a small, please sound escaped her throat. Her tail wrapped around us both, creating a cocoon of warmth and intimacy. We broke apart only when breathing became necessary, foreheads resting together. Stay tonight? I whispered. I thought you'd never ask. The next morning, I woke to the sight of Yuki sprawled across my chest, her auburn hair splayed across the pillow, one ear twitching occasionally in her sleep. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting her skin in warm gold. I brushed a strand of hair from her face, and her eyes fluttered open, focusing on me with sleepy contentment. Morning, she mumbled, her voice husky with sleep. A lazy smile curved her lips as she stretched, her body arching against mine in ways that made coherent thought difficult. Good morning, beautiful. She made a pleased chittering sound and buried her face in my neck. Say that again. Beautiful, I murmured against her ear, feeling her shiver. Gorgeous. Amazing. Keep going, she breathed, her lips finding my throat, planting soft kisses that made my pulse jump. What followed was a slow, sweet exploration, learning each other in the soft morning light. She was surprisingly bold once her initial shyness faded, guiding my hands to the places she wanted touched, showing me how sensitive the base of her ears were. Feather-like touches made her gasp and arch, how she loved having her tail stroked, slow, firm passes from base to tip that had her melting against me. Is this okay? I asked softly as my hands traced down her spine. More than okay, she breathed. Ethan, touch me. Please. There was something profoundly intimate about the trust in her eyes, the way she opened herself to me completely. Every gasp, every sigh, every whispered yes, or there, built something between us that felt sacred. When she climaxed, my name on her lips, her whole body trembling, I held her through it, kissing her temples, her cheeks, her parted lips. Your turn, she whispered after catching her breath, a mischievous gleam in her eyes as she shifted position, her hair falling around us like a curtain. The weeks that followed were a blur of stolen moments and deepening intimacy. We learned each other's rhythms and routines, quirks and preferences. I discovered she hoarded blankets and made nest-like arrangements in bed. She learned I was meticulous about my coffee brewing process and would wait patiently, tail swishing, for her perfectly prepared cup each morning. Our friends noticed the change immediately. At study group, Yuki now sat practically in my lap, unashamed of our closeness. My roommate Jake gave me endless grief, but admitted he'd never seen me happier. Her veterinary school friends welcomed me into their circle with knowing grins and pointed questions about intentions. That made Yuki's ears flatten in embarrassment. But it wasn't all effortless bliss. There were challenges too, practical ones we had to navigate together. Your parents are visiting? Yuki's voice was carefully neutral when I told her, but her tail had gone still, a sure sign of anxiety. Yeah, next weekend. Yuki, I want you to meet them. Are you sure? Ethan, I'm not. I mean, we're... She gestured between us, ears drooping. Some human families don't approve. What if they... I pulled her close, silencing her worries with a firm kiss. My parents will love you. Because I love you. And if they don't, that's their problem, not ours. Her eyes searched mine, looking for certainty. Whatever she found there made her relax slightly. Okay, but if your mom asks why I eat all your chicken, I'm blaming you for being a terrible cook. Hey! She giggled, the sound melting my heart as always. The meeting went better than expected. My mother was charmed by Yuki's earnest enthusiasm and obvious adoration for me. My father appreciated her work ethic and intelligence. By the end of dinner, Mom was showing her embarrassing baby photos while Yuki's tail wagged contentedly. 6 months later, we stood in the doorway of our new apartment, emphasis on our. Boxes filled every available surface, labels written in both our handwriting creating a visual representation of our merged lives. I can't believe we actually did this, Yuki breathed, squeezing my hand. Having second thoughts? She turned to face me, rising on her toes to kiss me firmly. Never. This is everything I want. Moving in together had been the natural next step, but that didn't make it any less monumental. Her veterinary equipment mixed with my research materials. Her collection of cozy blankets joined my sensible bedding. Her wild, intuitive approach to life balanced my careful planning. That night, after hours of unpacking and several pizza deliveries, we collapsed onto our bed, the first piece of furniture we'd assembled together, complete with an argument over the instructions that ended with us laughing so hard we couldn't breathe. Ethan? Yuki's voice was soft in the darkness, her body warm against mine. I never told you why I was really at your table that first day. I turned to face her, curious. I figured you were just hungry. I was. But I'd been watching you for weeks before that. She ducked her head, embarrassed. You always looked so peaceful when you ate, like you were savoring every moment. And you never minded when other people were loud or messy around you. You just existed in this bubble of calm. I wanted to be in that bubble. My heart squeezed. So you decided to steal my food? It seemed like a good plan at the time. She laughed, then sobered. But really, I was lonely. New city, new school, no friends. And you looked like kindness personified. I thought maybe if I was brave enough to approach you, even in the most ridiculous way possible, you might share that peace with me. And now? She pressed her palm flat against my chest, over my heart. Now you're my home, my pack, my everything. You didn't just share your lunch, you shared your whole life with me. I kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. Best lunch theft in history. Worst pickup line in history, she countered, grinning. It worked, didn't it? Her tail wrapped around my leg, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. Yeah, it really did. As we lay there in our first night in our new home, I marveled at how a simple act of sharing food had transformed into this. A partnership, a love story, a future. Yuki had stolen my lunch that day, but in the process, she'd also stolen my heart, my daily routines, my carefully ordered life. And I'd never been more grateful to be robbed. Hey, Ethan? Tomorrow, you're making extra. I'm really hungry already. I laughed into her hair, pulling her closer. Tomorrow and every day after, Yuki. I'll always save you a seat at my table. And I'll always steal your food. I'm counting on it. Outside our window, the city lights twinkled like stars. Inside our home, wrapped in each other's arms, we'd found something rarer than any treasure. A love that started with hunger and ended with being completely, utterly filled.